Hello guys, what's up? It's Will back once again for another fight card prediction. We're here for UFC 259. Blachowicz against Israel Adesanya for the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship, with a couple of other title fights on the card as well, with Amanda Nunes against Megan Anderson and Petr Yan against Aljamain Sterling. So really fine fight card. Actually love this fight card from the matchmaking they put together. There's fights throughout this card. I am thoroughly looking forward to watching this weekend. I'm really hoping that nothing falls off, so I'm trying to be as positive as possible. Hope everybody is well. Thank you for all the support as per usual. If you're new to the channel, please throw a thumbs up. Can we see if we can maybe get this to over 200 likes? Try and help a brother out. Let's get to 200 likes if possible. That would be much, much appreciated if we could do that. And if I want to know your guys' picks for this week, there's going to be a lot of people on opposite sides. I want to know what bets you're making. So please let me know in the comment section, and I will get back to you as soon as we can, and we can talk fights. That's what it's all about here, guys. So yeah, I made a Patreon. I'm thinking about posting the link down below, but I'm still a little bit unsure about it, if I'm being honest with you. But I'll let you know if I do pop it down there. Coming off a great week betting wise. February was an unbelievable month for me, my biggest betting month ever. Hoping to continue this run here. Not going to be easy, because you always know when you have those highs, the lows are not going to be too far behind. So hoping to just keep it steady, consistent. The loss is not too big. I'm up greatly for 2021, up over 21 units at the minute, nearing 22 units. So it's a great year for me so far, but we're only 2 months in. Still plenty of time to build that and consolidate it and have a great year betting wise. But again, I just want to thank everybody for the support. It's always appreciated. And you can find all my bets and everything at Bet MMA Tips, where you can see what bets I'm making. I've already made one bet, which I literally made a little bit earlier on today. So yeah, I can see some of you guys in the chat there. Will, what's up? Let's get a good betting card this weekend. I think so too. Let's move into the card. Mario Bautista against Trevin Jones is the first fight of the night in the bantamweight division. And I must admit, guys, I really like this Mario Bautista kid. Super aggressive, maybe a little bit too aggressive sometimes. That's a little bit of a concern. That if you do that up the levels in this division, that you could get caught, especially in this division where it's so full of killers. But I like everything about it. I like his power. I like his unpredictability. I like just his takedown defense and the power that he has in his hands, his hand speed, his shot selection. It's all really good, and something I really like. It's just the fact that he's kind of coming into his own, 27, 28 years of age, coming out of MMA Lab, on a card here with a couple other guys who are peaking for this card and big fights on this card. So he's got himself a big fight here to start off the night, and I really like him. Trevin Jones, a guy, 12-6 record, coming off that win that got changed to no contest because he popped for marijuana or some bollocks like that, over Tima Valiev, where he took a few hits, somehow stayed in the fight, then managed to get the finish himself. I just don't see him having too much here for Mario Bautista. I think this is a really good fight. You guys in America got an unbelievable line if you had the opportunity to get decent books and get decent money down on it. Like, Bautista was like -130, -140 when he opened. Now, I'm sure the limits were quite low in that, but now he's -220, 225 here in the UK. I'm probably going to bet him this week, and I'm going to parlay him up. I've got another eye on with him. I just think he's better and more aggressive and more dangerous across the fight here against Trevin Jones. Trevin's obviously got a lot more experience, probably an extra 10 more fights. Whether that accounts for something, it might do a little bit, but I like Bautista. I think he's a really good, solid prospect, actually. I think he's going to be a name to keep an eye on for 2021, and a guy that I really liked and cashed me a nice bet against Miles Jones last time out. So I've got Mario Bautista. I've got him doing this early here. I've got him doing it under 1.5 rounds. I've got him via knockout in this one now. Uros Medic against Elon Cruz is up next. And this is one that I've been going back and forward with, because you watch the footage of Elon Cruz, of Uros Medic, I should say, and he comes from that Alaskan fight scene, and it's not the greatest fight scene, admittedly. but he handles those guys accordingly, gets them out of there with ease. He's got a lot of big factors that I think are in his favour. Being in this division with the height, the length, the aggressiveness with his striking. I mean, he rips through these guys on the regional scene, and that's fine and dandy. But now he's into the big leagues here. Beat that, I can't remember the guy's name, Manny Rodriguez, I think it might have been, on the Dana White Contender Series, and that guy didn't look like he should have been in that spot, in all honesty. What I like about Uros, obviously he's massive, he's 6'1" at 155, that's huge. Really aggressive striker, big body kicks, follows up with hands. I think he does make lapses with his defense regarding takedowns. You watch some of his fights, I think it was Jason Flowers there, he got like German suplexed, a belly suplex, that's the one I'm trying to think of, and gets thrown halfway across the cage, gets into a couple of bad positions, but the guy finds a triangle choke, gets a submission out of there. Then he absolutely ran through his Dana White Contender Series fight there. And then I went and had a look through his Instagram recently. I'm seeing that he's got out of Alaska. That's a plus in my opinion. And then he's went to King's MMA, which is another big plus considering the guys that he's been in there with. Marvin Vettori, Kelvin Gastelum, guys in this division like Beneil Dariush. If you're sparring and working with Beneil Dariush, you're going to make so many improvements. And at 6-0, that's a big plus. In this matchup here, he's got Elon Cruz, 8-3 record, I believe, off the top of my head. Moving up to 155 here, a little bit more experience. He's got a bit of a wrestling background. I've seen him use it a little bit, but he got knocked out pretty badly against against Spike Carlisle. So the opportunity to maybe get this guy's chin is there. He's going to have a massive reach advantage, which I think he can use to its advantage in this one here. I think he's got the wrestling that if he decides to use it, I think he's got an advantage there. He's got the experience of going longer and into fights, which I think is a big plus to have. And that's still something on Medic's side, which I'm not too sure about. I like his style, super aggressive, throws a nice teep up the middle. But I think he has to mix up. I think if he stands and wants to trade with this guy, I think he could be in a lot of trouble. And I think his ground game, working with the guys he is at King's MMA, is going to start making big jumps up there. But like I said, I've got no real inkling I want to bet this fight. But I think it's just a pick. I'm going to take a shot on underdog and Elon Cruz. I think he's got an opportunity, especially if we get into rounds 2 and 3, to potentially maybe take over. If he was to use his grappling and wrestle up a little bit, then I think that would be a great path for him to take. Because I think if he stands at distance, I think he's an opportunity of eating some hellish shots to the body. So I'm going to pick Elon Cruz. I might take him via late TKO, if not a decision victory there. Sean Brady against Jake Matthews up next. Two young guys. Jake Matthews, you're saying he's a young guy, but he's been around the UFC for a very long time. For, I want to say, 6-7 years now. So crazy amount of time. He grew up in the UFC from being, 19 years old, I want to say he is. Or he was when he came into the UFC, came through the Ultimate Fighter, and has really progressed into a really flourishing welterweight after moving up there from the lightweight division when his body kind of filled out a little bit. But his wins, I mean, he's faced decent guys. You look at his record, just bringing up here, James Vick at that time was a very serious fighter. Kevin Lee's obviously a named fighter. But he has lost a couple of guys which are a little bit, like Andrew Holbrook, that was a little bit dodgy. He's kind of went to splits with Bojan Velikovic, which was a little bit not a great look, but again, that was him moving up a division. Then he had that kind of dirty fight against Li Jingliang, which was a little bit, that's a great one having a record. Shinzo Anzai, can't really take too much away from there. And then the last three guys he's beat, I mean, Emil Met can't stop a takedown. The most defining feature about Rosman Akman was his hairy, his all-in-one kind of hairy jumper that he used to wear. And Diego Sanchez is really just a fighter that's, like I say, he's going to have one more fight and he's going to be done in the UFC at least. But he's got a lot of experience. He's probably coming into his prime. When I look at Sean Brady, I do like this kid. I think that this is a good step up for him facing this guy here. I think when I just think it's hard for me to kind of say he's the more superior fighter, but I think he's better across more areas. I think his boxing's really, really good, a little bit underrated, like his low kick. I think that Matthews has some decent striking, but I think on the feet, I think there's more of a, what's the word I'm looking for? I think Sean brings more of a threat, in my opinion, on the feet than what an overall threat on the feet than what Jake does. I think he can counter strike as well. I think he can angle off and throw some nice shots, and he's got good defense with his shots as well. But I think he's the better grappler here. When I look at this here, I think that Matthews, he's been taken down in the past. His takedown defense isn't too bad, but he has been taken down. It's not something that's shown recently. Brady's a black belt under Daniel Gracie, which to me is a plus on his side. And you've seen that beautiful submission against Christian Aguilera last time out. The one thing I don't really like, it's just like minus 210 against this fight. I don't really kind of agree with that line too much. I like more a Sean Brady in this fight. I'm probably going to parlay him up with Mario Bautista because I can't play Mario straight. So putting them two guys together, probably getting around plus 115. I don't think it's a bad line. I will probably have a couple of units on that, probably very soon actually, because the line might start to move a little bit. Sean Brady's line's been going up a little bit, down a little bit, I should say. So, for me, I'm going to pick Sean Brady. I think he wins a pretty unanimous decision here, and we'll see him get another step up kind of going forward there. Kennedy Nchukwu against Carlos Ulberg. This is one of these fights that annoys me because there's all this hype on Carlos Ulberg, and some people that I kind of speak to kind of privately are really, really high in this guy, and I'm just like, but why? It's like there's very little of him out there. You've obviously seen the Dana White Contender Series fight against Bruno Oliveira, where Bruno was in his mid-30s, super aggressive, and kind of paid the price for that, and that was his probably last big opportunity he had. I think he got knocked out again since. So the guy's big for the division, obviously coming from a great camp there in New Zealand. Still very inexperienced, in my opinion, in the fight game, even though he's had, I think, kickboxing and boxing fights out there. But there's just not a lot to. I haven't seen all that much to really out here to make him. What's his betting line? Let me bring that up. Minus 225. And I'm seeing a lot of people saying, but Kennedy's very, very green. And it's like, is Carlos Ulberg not just like that as well? I mean, Kennedy has got a lot of physical attributes, big for the division, big reach. I think he comes from a great camp. We've not seen the best of him, and he's kind of fought close with some bad guys as well. Not bad guys, but guys that are not even in the UFC, like a Darko Stosic, where Stosic was kind of getting off on him a little bit. But I'm still not 100% sold on Carlos Ulberg. But it's hard to really sit here and have any confidence in Kennedy and Nchukwu. I do like the fact that he's coming from a camp with some decent big guys, like Ryan Spann won in the UFC, Muhammad Usman, Uriah Hall is really established himself. So he's getting different looks with good strikers, with some good wrestlers and so on. So and you have to think the time that he's been away that he's going to start making gains in his game. I think eventually that's going to start to turn around, and this could be the spot here. But this is one of these picks. It's going to be my least confident picks. I'm seeing everybody on Carlos Ulberg, so that pretty much makes me want to go on the opposite side already. But like I say, I'm going to have no action on this fight. If I had an imaginary $20 or 20 quid to throw down, it would probably be in Kennedy and Nchukwu. I'm keeping my money well away from this fight. I'm just going to look to see if we can get more data on someone like Carlos Ulberg, see if we can get a little bit more out of him going forward, and maybe we see Kennedy and Nchukwu making a big jump in his skill set, where I think he can be a really good fighter within that division because he does have some dominions of his game that actually really show out very, very, very well. So I'm going to pick Carlos Ulberg, but I'm not super confident, honestly. Two guys I don't trust in the slightest are up next. Tim Elliott against Jordan Espinosa. Tim Elliott, I just don't think you can trust that guy. I'm off the Jordan Espinosa. I bet him last fight against David Dvorak. I thought I was going to get more out of him, and he really just didn't show up. Props to David Dvorak, who showed up and had a really good performance in that fight and clearly won that one. But this could be an exciting fight because I think you've got the big athletic guy in Espinosa. He's got some natural power there, but then you've got the scrappy, kind of wild Tim Elliott, who's kind of rock 'em, sock 'em, will put the head down, just swing some windmills. It looked again, take you down, looked to be dominant on the floor, but to me, he's kind of in the last legs of his career. He's been in the UFC, then out the UFC, then back in again. He's had some injuries. He's moved to Vegas, then back to Kansas. So he's had ups and downs of like an experienced pro fighter. Coming off a win over Ryan Benoit there, which was great for him to get back in the win column in the UFC. Don't think he looked all that convincing, honestly, especially before that, losing 3 fights to the guys that he lost to. In all fairness, are top 10 guys: Royval, Askarov, and the champ, the big man up top there, and Davison Figueiredo. This fight is just, I don't want any part of it. I really don't. So in this spot, I'm going to take Tim Elliott. It just is a pick. He's a dog pick. So I think in a fight that's ultimately going to be close, I think he can maybe edge rounds, get takedowns. Now, I see Espinosa not staying there and getting kept on the floor. I think he can use that athleticism to bounce back to his feet and just get back on his feet, pretty much get to the cage and try and use that big power. I think he's got the more powerful strikes. He's the more technical striker. He just needs to throw a little bit more, and he kind of fades throughout. Tim does a little bit as well, so it could get a little bit scrappy in the mid part of this fight, but I am going to edge Tim Elliott in this fight, but I'm not going to be super confident on this, honestly, guys. So yeah, just going to go into the chat and say hello to everybody there. I've been kind of looking away and seeing what's going on. What's going on there? I see Goob72. I seriously don't see the hype on Bautista. I don't know. I just think he's a really good looking fighter from what I see. I def see Jones as the one knocking Bautista out. All the best if you make that one. BP, what's up, my man? Got lucky in his bout against Shayna Dobson. On how Shayna Dobson lucky getting smoked a few weeks ago. Jones is the L here. Oh, well, let's hope so. Tiger Bomb MMA, hope you're well. Medic should get it here, but he's real green. That's true. So I'm going to go back into these fights, guys, because we've got another 10 fights to go. So let's get going. Livia Souza against Amanda Lemos. Hands up. I've not really watched all too much on this fight. I know there's others out there that have got a better. They've watched more of this fights on these girls. I don't know how much I'm going to watch throughout the week, but I think it should be lined a little bit closer. Plus 175 on Livia Souza. I was told earlier on she was like minus 210 as an opener. I think BP told me regarding that, and that's a little crazy how the lines flip so much. So everyone seems to be on the Lemos side, and I can see why. I think she's overall a more better striker, whereas Souza really just throws a kind of overhand right and doesn't really throw much else after that. Both girls are black belts. I think both are very difficult fighters on the ground, good fighters in their own aspect. Lemos, she's coming off that win. I think, is it Miranda Granger? I want to say it was Mizuki anyway. It was Miranda Granger before that, where she got a submission in a strawweight debut, and then I think it's a good win over Mizuki. I think Mizuki's a solid fighter. She outstruck her there. Good striking. She kind of faded off a little bit, but I think both girls here could actually fade a little bit. So, like I said, I've not watched all that much on this, but I think that Livia Souza at those odds, like I say, if I had imaginary money that I wanted to throw in this fight, I think I would probably throw it on the dog and on Livia Souza. But like I say, it's hard to be kind of confident in that pick. This might be one of those fights. I'm off this week, so I might actually spend a little bit more time over the next few days to watch more of these girls' fights and see if I can see anything that jumps out to me. But Souza can get takedowns. We've seen that in the Frota fight where this was the fight I actually watched the other day, and she got 4 or 5 takedowns, advanced position. Frota was a big girl, managed to get back to her feet though. I'm going to go Souza. Not very confident. I think the line should be closer. I think this could become a little bit scrappy. But like I say, a lot of people are on the Lemos side. So I'm just interested to see. Like I said, I've not watched all that much. There's too many good fights in this card for me to be sat here watching Livia Souza and Amanda Lemos. So yeah, I'm going to go Souza, but not confident. Rogerio Bontorin against Kai Kara France. I like the dog in this one as well. I like Bontorin in this spot. I think that he's let me down in the past. He let me down last time out against Ray Borg there, where he got grapple fucked into oblivion pretty much. And I thought he was going to be able to stop that in that fight. Maybe not stop it, but I thought corral it a little bit, where I thought he would maybe fight a little bit harder to not getting taken down. But eventually, once that he started kind of rinsing, repeating those takedowns, it became easy for him. And he couldn't really use that kind of physicalness and power to really get him off, and just kind of gassed out a little bit with all the grappling that went on here. Now, he's not going to get that from Kai Kara France, but Kai Kara France initially is going to have some advantages on the feet. I think better combination striking, better speed, better shot selection, better angles, better footwork, pretty much everything. The raw brute power, I think, is on the side of Bontorin, and I think the longer, especially in a striking match, and in a match where I actually think he can get takedowns, then I think he becomes a very live dog in this spot, and he's a guy I'm looking at very closely, potentially for a bet. I've picked my spots well against Kai Kara France, where I faded him against Brandon Moreno, got dog money there. Bontorin, to me, might be a guy that could be a good spot this week. But again, I'm going to try and just stick around and see where the line goes, and see if I can pick some more things out. I mean, Bontorin's looked good in his UFC with a couple of good wins. Anytime you've got a win over Howlin' Paiva, Bibalatov's a good win to have on your record, even though maybe Bibalatov probably deserved that there. And the Paiva one was a bad cut in the head there. So, like I say, Kai Kara France kind of dips off a little bit, and he can be hit as well. I think the raw power of Bontorin will start to come through. The physicality of Bontorin will start to come through. And I think if he mixes it up, gets some takedowns, I don't think he keeps Kai Kara France there, because I think that Kai Kara France can get back to his feet, shrimp up, and just manage to get back to the realm where he wants the fight to be. But I prefer to be on the Bontorin side. I think he's got opportunities to win this fight here. So Rogerio Bontorin is going to be my pick in that one there. Interesting fight. We're into an interesting portion of this card here, where my head's kind of just drawn to these kind of couple of fights in these next three. Joseph Benavidez against Askarov. I'm kind of surprised, honestly, that Joseph Benavidez, after watching what happened in that second Davison fight, where it was so emotional, I think he kind of realised that his chances of becoming a UFC champ were well and truly gone. I mean, in those two fights, he took an absolute shit ton of punishment in those scraps, where he got finished, could be life-changing knockouts, submissions, whatever it may be. And now he's kind of no man's land, because he can win as many fights as he wants. He's probably not going to get another shot at Davison Figueiredo. And we know with Joseph Benavidez that he pretty much beats anybody and runs through anybody that's not top of that division. And we've seen that on multiple occasions. Askarov is, in my opinion, around about a top 5 guy. I think he's got all the skills here to win a decision. I don't think he's got the power to put away Joseph Benavidez, but if he catches him with a clean shot, he could probably put him down. I don't think he knocks him out, but the punishment that Joe B's taken is a lot. And I think the output of Askarov, even though he's not got the greatest striking, I think he can mix it up very, very well. But Joseph Benavidez is a good scrambler. I think if Askarov takes him down, I think Joe B will pop back up. But I'm not sure about the will of Joseph Benavidez anymore. But this is a fight that, I mean, I remember that Alex Perez, when everyone seemed to be on Alex Perez in that fight, and I got Joseph Benavidez, I think, for plus 125, and I was like, why are the odds like this? Now he's an underdog again, and it's tempting to go that side, but when I watch the fights, I can maybe see Askarov maybe just outworking him a little bit. But, I mean, this is a fight that Joe B should win, and I feel like I should be picking him, but my gut's telling me Askarov, so I'm going to go Askar to win the fight via very close decision. Bantamweight division, Song Yadong against Kyler Phillips. Interesting fight here. A lot of people from I've seen from MMA Twitter and Reddit and so on, seem to love Kyler Phillips in this spot. And I can kind of see why, because he's looked decent, especially in his last fight, but he was against Cameron Else, who, in my opinion, I don't think he should be in the UFC, but he handled that guy like a newcomer and absolutely smashed him to bits eventually when he started to really get his foot and hold into that fight. Got takedowns, was slapping the guy down there, was a little bit unlucky not to get that fight stopped at the end of round one. Went into the second round, and Cameron Hills, to me, looked like he kind of just gave that takedown and didn't really want to be in there. And then Kyler Phillips was just in there raining elbows, and it was stopped very, very quick in the second round. Great win against Gabriel Silva as well. I think I tried to fade him there in that fight. There was some good dog odds in Silva, and I tried to go with that there. You look at the If He Can Do fight, that was a beautiful head kick. This is the guy we've known about for a very long time, folks. He fought in the Ultimate Fighter 3-4 years ago, lost to Brad Katona, comes from that famed MMA lab gym where we've got Casey Kenney on here, we've got Mauro Bautista, we have Sean O'Malley who's doing work there. So he's got a great stablemate right now who are peaking for fights, and that can only help him in this spot. When you look at Song Yadong, a lot of people don't like this guy for the close decisions that he's won, and I think that's a little bit unfair, because he's not the one that's scoring these fights. He's the one that's in there fighting, and it's the judges that are giving this guy the fights here. I've been impressed with him. I think that he's a good fighter, but there's definitely some holes in his games that he needs to fix. But he's got some good wins. I mean, anytime you've got a W over Marlon Chito Vera, that's big. You've got a draw in there against Cody Stamen, where he looked okay in spots in that one. I kind of think Cody deserved to probably win that fight, but he's one of these fighters that wins close rounds, and the judges seem to really like the look of him in spots. So to me, Kyler Phillips, if he can get this to the ground and have any amount of top time, I think he's a black belt under Tanquinho. That's always something to kind of latch up there. That's not a bad thing whatsoever. I think it's I think for pure athleticism, I think I'm on the Song Yadong side. I think he's going to win rounds, very close rounds. I think it's going to be a competitive fight, but this could be the coming out party for Kyler Phillips, honestly. If he wins this, 3 fights in a row over, especially this guy who's got a good record, one up at featherweight, one at bantamweight. I like Song Yadong as a fight. I think he will progress into being a good fighter, but I think he wins close rounds really well, and the judges seem to like him as well. So if you're betting Kyler Phillips, I wish you all the best. I know some people are out there, and anytime you're taking a shot in the dog, and I wish you all the best. But my gut feeling is Song Yadong via 29-28 decision. Just don't get taken down and dominate. I think if he keeps on the feet, I think he can have opportunities to hit this guy. I think he'll take some hits as well, but I'll take Song Yadong for the win there. Dominic Cruz against Casey Kenney is the main event of the prelims before we head into the main card. And I'm really interested in this fight, and I've got a bet down on this fight, which I made not long ago, a couple hours ago actually. And I've got very lucky because the lines moved over here. So kind of got the best line that's been out. And I know in America the lines started to move a little bit down in that one. So you've got the former champion, Dominic Cruz, kind of taking a step down an opponent. Probably, in my opinion, it's probably what he has to do, because the guys that he's been facing, he's clearly not on their levels right now. Whereas Casey Kenney started to make progress towards that top 15. He's not a ranked fighter though. So I think Dominic Cruz is around about number 10 in the division, I think it is. So he's against a guy probably in Kenney who's probably just looking around that top 20. Has had some big fights against some guys that are in that the rankings there. And Casey Kenney, when you watch a lot of his fights, he is so solid across many aspects. You watch, I mean, just last week I was watching Vince Cachero fights, knocked him out with a knee. I think that was in short notice. Brandon Royval, CJ Hamilton back in the day. He's got great wins. He's got a great overall skill set to win fights. Coming into the UFC, beat Ray Borg, beat Manny Bermudez. lost to Merab, where I bet him in that spot thinking that he could stuff some takedowns. How stupid of me was I there? But then he's reeled off wins over Lewis Smoker, submitted him, absolutely ripped Haile Alating to bits with those leg kicks. And then Nathaniel Wood, that was just a great fight. Well-deserved fight of the night there. Got some good striking, overall striking. I think his low kicks are debilitating. And that's a big asterisk point in this fight here, because Dominic Cruz has had multiple knee injuries, leg injuries, whatever it may be, and he's relying on those wheels to cut angles, to feint, to use that to get takedowns, where he kind of feints off to the side, then dives in for a takedown. But the thing I'm a little bit worried is people maybe started to figure out that maybe Dominic Cruz's style is maybe it shouldn't be. It's easy to figure out now. In saying that, he's facing guys and like Cody Garbrandt. That night, Cody Garbrandt seemed to see everything that he was doing and just retaliated with big blows and hit him with a couple of big strikes there. And then you move on to Henry Cejudo. He's one of the greats of the sport, in my opinion. One of the best guys. And Dominic Cruz is up there as one of the best bantamweights of all time with what he's overcome, came back, got the belt. But Triple C is like a goat, and like he did not play into the game of Dominic Cruz. He cut him off, and then he landed big strikes and knocked him out there. But like I say, I keep forgetting it's like 4 years nearly between those two fights, the Cody fight and the Henry Cejudo. So the fact that he's fighting here 6 to 8 months later, that's good. A full training camp and a step down an opponent. In my opinion here, I think he can win this fight pretty clearly. If he doesn't obtain like leg kicks that like debilitate him, I think that he can win this fight. I don't want to say easily, because Casey Kenney is not an easy guy to beat, but I still think that Cruz has still got the level to really win these types of fights in the division. I don't know about the top 5 in the division. I'm sure he probably thinks he does, but that division is it's a killer's row. Petr Yan, Aljamain Sterling, Corey Sandhagen, TJ Dillashaw's coming back, and then there's loads of other guys, Merab Dvalishvili. There is so many guys, and even outside the top 15, there is guys coming through. Big fight. He loses this one. I don't think we see him in the UFC again. I don't think we see him fighting. I think he's got other things to fall back on. But I like him in this spot. I actually really like him, and I don't understand why the odds were up at plus 125. I jumped in that. I put a couple of units on him at plus 125 to win. I'm seeing a lot of love for Casey Kenney, and I can see why. That's fine. But I'll be on the other side of that, and hopefully he comes through as a dog. But I'm going to pick Dominic Cruz via decision. Just don't get caught with those leg kicks if you can, and try and use that kind of rope-a-dope style where he's kind of fainting away and he's making you exert a lot of energy and frustrating you a little bit, where he can maybe get quick takedowns and just win a decision. I don't think he stops him by any means, but Dominic Cruz via decision is where I'm going, and I've got my money down in that fight. So looking forward to seeing how that one plays out. Now on to the main card, guys. Thiago Marreta Santos against Alexander Rakic. Great fight. I've seen a lot of people talk about these two guys going back and forward. I've seen a lot of people bet the dog in Thiago Santos. I've seen some people completely write off Alexander Rakic and saying, why is he a favourite in this spot? And I'm like, I actually think he does deserve to be a favourite in this spot. But when you look at Thiago Santos with the power and the explosiveness that guy has, then it's not a bad bet, especially with his striking. But to me, he's getting old now. He's like 37, 38 years old in that division. The power will always be there. The explosiveness, for the most part, will be there. And he is coming off a couple of big losses, but when he puts it all together, he's a very, very, very dangerous fighter. I mean, the two guys he's lost to, John Jones, take nothing away from there, gave a spirited performance. Glover Teixeira, he got beat up badly when that fight initially when Glover started to take over that fight. But that power is always going to be there. So for Rakic, I think he has to fight smart. And sometimes he's been a little bit of a meathead. And you look at the Devin Brown fight, or the Devin Clark fight, he went out there, he got hit with some big shots, dropped a little bit. But when he fights smart, you can see like the Ledet fight way back in the day, really pinpointed like parts of the body where he could take out just on the day, and then mix it in with takedowns. So he used low kicks and then takedowns to really cement himself in that fight. He had the one thing I didn't really like was the Anthony Smith fight there, where he kind of had him hurt and then kind of went to the ground with him. Where I think if he was to get him to the feet, he could have got him out there with the low kicks and so on. But I think it's a more well-rounded fight. I think Rakic is that. I think he's got dangerous striking. I do think he's got power as well, so he could hurt Santos. But you don't really want to be standing there and throwing massive, massive shots with Thiago Santos. You just don't want to do that because he's one of the premier knockout artists that the UFC's ever had. I mean, Meerschaert, Hermansson, Anthony Smith, Jan Blachowicz, Jimmy Manoa. The guy's got unreal power. I could go further down the line there, but for me, I think Alexander Rakic is going to fight smart in this one. I think he's going to mix up his strikes. I think he's going to get takedowns, have a little bit of top position. I think he's going to frustrate Thiago Santos, and I think he's going to win the fight via decision in that one there. So I've got Alexander Rakic for the win there. Moving on, we have Islam Makhachev against Drew Dober. Minus 335's high. I'll be honest with you. I don't like how high that line is, but I think it is kind of warranted to be that high because Islam's shown nothing there where you really doubt him as a number at that high a number. And he's got some great wins in his record. The last couple of wins are great. Davi Ramos, Arman Sarukian. His striking's okay. I think he's got some submission skills. I think he will have obviously a definitive advantage on the ground with Drew Dober if he gets him there. But on the feet, I think he can last there. But he has to be obviously careful because Drew Dober, he's got good leg kicks himself, really good hands, good shots, and he's got some big power if he can land correctly. I'm just not sold on him stopping Islam, taking him to the ground. I think there's going to be spots here where he will take him down and he can ride out position for 2-3 minutes of a round, and I think he can be on the feet. I think he can contend with Drew Dober to an extent to where he does enough on the feet, then gets the takedown and kind of wins the rounds through that. Probably a little bit more of a submission threat as well, but I think if he gets Drew Dober down there, I don't see Drew all that many times popping back to his feet. So I kind of see more of this fight then body to body on the floor, him controlling position, just doing enough to kind of stay in those positions. But like I say, Drew Dober's been an absolute run recently, but this is a big jump up in my opinion to be going in here and facing Islam Makhachev, who I think is a little bit of a dark horse of the division. And now's the time with Khabib being out that they should be pushing this guy to get him up into that top five, see if he can beat some of these top five guys because it is a great division. So I'm kind of leaning Islam Makhachev. I think that he's got a chance for a submission. I'm going to take him via stoppage. I actually think that he can catch Drew Dober in something. So I'll take submission win for Islam Makhachev in that one there. On to the main part of this card, the 3 title fights. And this one here, this is the fight I am looking forward to. The bantamweight king, the Siberian Gangster, Petr Yan against the Funkmaster Aljamain Sterling. What a great fight we have here, guys. I went back and looked at one of my videos when Aljo first went to the UFC, and I was like, this guy's going to fight for a title. I just kind of wish it wasn't against Petr Yan because I'm a big Petr Yan fan, but I'm also a big Aljo fan. I say that every fight. And sometimes I pick against him. I have done in the past. I picked against him against Corey Sanhagen, and he went out there in the human backpack and got the submission and put him to sleep inside a minute, which was kind of crazy. But the evolution of Aljamain Sterling is something that it's been amazing to behold, really. Because he came to the UFC, predominantly a grappler, a very good grappler, can pretty much, if he gets your back or gets in a spot where he's got his weight on you, he can win large parts of that fight. He's got submissions there, which he can catch you with a lot of different angles. He caught Stamen with one, caught Takeya Misagaki with one. So he's got some funky submissions in his repertoire, and he's got great wrestling to boot as well. Then he got knocked out, decided to make some changes to his striking, and now he's just a really tough guy to game plan for because he's so funky on the feet. Like, he never throws any singular shots. He's never in the same spot for too long. He like I say, he'll throw a kick to then some strikes up top with his hands, and then it'll be vice versa with hands and he always finishes off with kicks. So, he's just a really tough fighter to really kind of game plan for, and it's someone that I think Petr Yan will not have a hell of a lot of experience against, but I don't know whether that's going to make much difference. I'm seeing a lot of people in Aljamain Sterling. I can see why, dog odds, but this betting line has got to the place where in the UK, Petr Yan is -110. This guy is nearly an underdog, and if that, like I say, I'm in at +110. If that hits underdog, I'm going to batter that line so hard because I think that he should be lined a little bit higher. But I can see why people are on Aljamain Sterling. If you haven't guessed already, my pick is going to be Petr Yan. And how I see this fight kind of going, Petr Yan can kind of be a little bit of a slow starter. You watch some of his previous fights. I think it's Jinsu Bin, I think it was, that he fought, who was a little bit long. He kind of ate a lot of shots there. And he does predominantly eat a lot of shots in fights. You watch the Jamie Rivera fight, he was caught with numerous strikes in that one there. But once he figures out what you're doing, then he starts to cut off the cage. Then he starts to get nasty. He starts to just bludgeon you with hard shots, attack the body, slow you down. He's just dangerous in all facets of the game. He's got takedowns. He's got knockout power. Great clinch work, nasty leg kicks, and he can take a shot. He can give a shot. He's got really good. He's just really animalistic with his finishing skills. We've seen that in his last two fights against two guys that are a little bit older. I did think that Aldo started off well in that fight, but once he started to figure out Jose Aldo, he absolutely ran a train through him in that fourth and fifth round and got the stoppage there to become the unanimous, undisputed, bantamweight champion of the world. Like I say, he has been a little bit sticky in some spots, but he always figures it out. And I think I'm interested to see if Aldo can get him down and keep him down there for large spots in this fight, because I think he can for a little bit, but I think if he doesn't submit him, then I just think that Peter's going to get more and more comfortable being on the feet, and eventually he's going to have more shots that land, more devastating shots, to the fact that Aldo's not going to like it all too much. And this is the guy that I've been championing since he came into the UFC, and Petr Yan. You watched his fights outside of the UFC. His fights with Magomedov were unbelievable fights. The destruction of Mateus Matos, Ed Arthur. These were fights I was watching way back in 2016, and I knew this guy was going to come in here and wreak havoc. I didn't think in the space of a couple of years. I mean, he made his UFC debut in 2018, so the space of maybe 2 years he become the champion of one of the best divisions, but he did so. So I am going to probably end up betting Petr Yan this week. Shout out to Aljo though, because Aljo is one of the nicest fighters you will meet. Great to be around. Great energy to him. And if there is a guy that I would like to see champion of this division outside of Petr Yan, it's probably Aljamain Sterling. So, but I've got to make a pick. I've got to make bets at the end of the day. I've got to try and make myself some money. And this is a spot here when I see -110 on Petr Yan, I'm like, unload on that number. But this is what betting's all about, and like you've got to kind of gamble. This could be a big gamble against Petr Yan here. I also like Petr Yan to win in rounds 4-5 and by decision. That's +200. So that's something I might throw one unit on as well, because I think Aljo will start off quick, get takedowns, potentially have some spots in some rounds, but I think Petr will start to take over and he will start to win rounds big in 3, 4, and 5, and potentially win a decision if it needs to be. So my pick's going to be Petr Yan. I've got him to win via late stoppage in round number 5, if not a pretty clear, maybe like 49-46 decision. So Petr Yan is the pick there. Amanda Nunes defense I built again against Megan Anderson. Really shouldn't take too long with this fight. I'll not see too many people picking Megan Anderson in this spot. She is the bigger girl. She walks around like plus like 170 pounds. So she's having to make a drastic weight cut down to 145, where Amanda Nunes probably doesn't have to make as drastic a weight cut as that. And the only thing I'm worried about is just complacency from Amanda Nunes, because I mean, she's did everything in 2 divisions. She's beat everyone in 2 divisions. She's just had a baby. Where's the head at with that? Is she wanting to, like, just, could it reinvigorate her in her career? Could it maybe settle her down a little bit? That's my only worry when it comes to fighting here. I think she's the bigger, she's the more well-rounded striker. I think the power is obviously on, some big power is on Megan Anderson's side, so she has to be careful she doesn't get hit with a clean shot there. But there's no ground game to Megan Anderson, in my opinion, in this fight. I think that we've seen that Amanda Nunes can take fights to the ground, can be dominant down there, can get submissions down there. That's how I think she gets it done. I think she gets it done inside 2 rounds. I just don't think Megan Anderson's grappling is on point with Amanda Nunes. She takes the path of least resistance, gets it down there, and gets a submission. So Nunes inside 2 for me. In the main event of the night, we've got Jan Blachowicz defending his UFC title against the UFC middleweight champion Israel Adesanya, who makes that move up to 205. And I'm really interested in this fight because I tell you what, if you told me a couple of years back that Jan Blachowicz would have been a UFC champion, I would have laughed in your face. I would have taken any bait that you laid out if that was the case. But I was so happy. It was one of my favourite moments of last year, was seeing Jan Blachowicz getting the opportunity for a title and actually going ahead and just beating up Dominic Reyes. And me, and of course, I cashed a bet in that one, plus 230, which was stupidly high. But the guy's obviously, his confidence is flourishing and he's believing in his power. And that's massive up in those big weight divisions. But now I think he's got his toughest test to date against the last style bender. Like I say, the champion at 185 who's beat all foes, beating champions, beating dangerous guys, your Yoel Romero's, your Paulo Costas, won them accordingly, knocked out champions and Robert Whittaker, went to absolute wars with Kelvin Gastelum. I mean, this guy's fought the who's who at 185. Now he's moving up to 205. And when I look at this matchup, I'm just thinking, I think this is a tailor-made matchup for Israel Adesanya. I think that he is the general in there where he controls what goes on in those striking affairs. He is the far superior technical striker in this one here, more length, but he has power with it, and I think that power will be even more being at 205. He'll have a very little weight cut this week, which is going to be huge for him. His energy is going to be high. He's so good to watch. I mean, I've seen some people kind of pick against him for things that he does outside the octagon and stuff, and I'm like, that shouldn't really matter when he's in the octagon, because when you watch him, he is poetry in motion. He really is. He puts everything together well, picks his shots, doesn't throw it full power. Just great striker, a great striker to watch. Unbelievable footwork, great distance control. I just think he's a very, very, very good fighter. And I think this is a matchup here when Jan Blachowicz, you watch him, and he has got the power. He's got that natural power. I mean, that knockout of Reyes was just a left hand over the top. Wasn't even that strong a hit, but was enough to put Dominic Reyes down. So he's a naturally heavier, more dense guy with the more natural kind of power probably. But he's very flat-footed. I think that with that, Izzy will kind of play with him and just leg kicks, teep kicks, oblique kicks. I think he will use everything in his repertoire to really hurt Jan Blachowicz. And then I think Jan's going to make the mistake that he's going to be down in rounds and he's going to start attacking. And that's when just the smarts, the fight IQ or the striking IQ of Izzy will come out there and he will catch him with some big shots. And I think that Jan will walk onto something and he will get knocked out in this one here. The betting line, I would like it to be a little bit lower, minus 230. I would like it to be down minus 200 for me to maybe think about a player a little bit less than that. But I think he knocks out Jan Blachowicz. I think that Jan's going to get too aggressive at one point and he's going to come forward and eat a shot and get knocked out there. So my pick's going to be Israel Adesanya. I'm going to pick him probably third or fourth round knockout there. If not, I think a comprehensive decision could be in play. But my pick is going to be Israel Adesanya there. So we're up to 60 people in there in the comment section, which is awesome. I can see all you guys in there. I can see Izzy by finish, left hook Yanni. That would be pretty special if he knocked out Israel Adesanya in that spot. Izzy will probably win, but I really hope he gets knocked out cold. Oh, a lot of people don't like Israel Adesanya. That's what I found out in the last week. Jan got this. He's going to bully Izzy. Interesting. So there's some guys in there on Jan Blachowicz. I like that, guys. Kiro the Tank, hope you're well, brother. Might bet Blachowicz just have a feeling. Wow. So, yeah. Crazy Polish power. And Izzy parlay that night for some juice. Yeah, that wasn't too bad. Guys, much appreciated all the comments that I see in there. Awesome comments and much appreciated. Guys, it's been awesome talking fights here. Go support all the other predictors out there. Come follow me on Twitter at Will Martin MMA. My bet MMA tips is Will Martin MMA. You can see what bets I make for this card. That's actually a good spot there, actually. Small cage. That actually might help some of the other guys like Thiago Santos and so on. So that's interesting. I totally forgot about that aspect. But guys, until next week, what's Young saying here? Jan Dog, last 3 times, let's go again. Good luck if you're betting him. I don't think I'm going to bet that fight as of right now. So I wish you all the very best, guys. Thank you so much. I'll be back next week for a really bumper card of UFC fights again. Yes, I'm going to do a cash lift. I was going to do it last week, but I didn't feel too great, so I kind of gave it a miss. I'll be back on Thursday for that. I'll post a link on Twitter and on YouTube as well, so keep an eye out. All the very best, guys. Thank you for the support. If you can really give this a thumbs up, I'm trying to get to 200 likes for this video, and it really helps with the algorithm of trying to get more views and stuff. So until next week, guys, all the best. Take care. Enjoy this fight card when it comes around this weekend.